So imagine you're on a beautiful paradise vacation. You're a lover of both tech and this. Like, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. The blues, the water, the mountains, the serenity. It's awesome. What you soon realize as you're flying your drone is that you're flying it in basically the middle of the open ocean, surrounded by just a few mountains. So once you get up high enough and away from the shelter of the mountains, your drone starts drifting away. There's nothing you can do about it. You're not touching the sticks at all, and the drone is just drifting. You try to fly home, and the drone is still going backwards. The wind is whipping close to 40 miles an hour, and you don't know what to do. But anyway, we have to rewind back a little bit to talk about how I got to that point. So backward to Grand Turk. This was the first spot on our cruise. As you can see, it's a little bit different atmosphere. There's no mountains. There's not really any wind either, as you can see, based just on the trees and the water itself. It's not really rough. There's no white caps or anything like that. This is really beautiful. Like, you could probably count about 100 shades of blue if that's even possible. It's just serenity to me. I love tech, like I said, and I love just paradise, so this was perfect. The problem was, the excursion I was on, we were limited to a very short amount of time here, so I had to get up and down in about 5 minutes, and it just left me wanting more, and that's what happened. So after I was done recording here at Grand Turk, the next day we went to an island called St. Kitt. So once we got to St. Kitt, I was super excited. We were basically on our own. We were at a beach. A bus dropped us off for about 3 to 4 hours. So I had 4 batteries. I could fly my drone the whole time if I wanted to. I had 4 memory cards, 64 gigs apiece. I was set. I could fly everywhere. The world is basically my playground at this point. Little did I know that the problem with St. Kitt in comparison to Grand Turk is that I don't know if it was just this particular day, but it was so much windier. It could be that St. Kitt is a lot farther east. It's not as protected from the open winds like Grand Turk is. I just don't know. But looking back at like maps and satellite shots, the beach that the drone started at was kind of just like in this protective little cove. So when the drone flew up in the air and then also away from the cove, that's when we encountered some problems. Once we got high and far away from this protected enclosure, that's when I noticed some issues. The problem is, I should have noticed them a lot sooner. Looking back on my replay of my flight, you can see where when I'm not touching the sticks at all, the drone is still drifting. And when I let go of the forward throttle, it takes it a long time for the drone to stop. Thinking back, I do remember that, but I didn't really think too much of it. I just thought, hey, it's windy, it's gusty. I even got warnings from the app that it was too windy, but I've gotten those warnings before, so, it was basically the boy who's cried wolf. Like, the app has told me that before, even though it wasn't too windy. So I just went on flying. At this point, right now, I'm flying it. Everything's fine. I don't know, maybe about 100 feet up in the air, not too far away. I could make it back down. Probably have over 15 minutes of battery life at this point. So right now I'm flying it backwards. I'm trying to get that really cool shot, where you fly it backwards, you speed it up, and everything looks amazing. Again, at this point, no idea what's about to happen. Take a look at the clouds in the top right-hand corner of the screen. You can see that cloud flying pretty fast, and that's a good indication of the winds. And then once again, as I'm standing at the end of this dock or at the end of this jetty or whatever, there's hardly any wind down there. Like I said, once we get up and out of this little enclosure, that's when these gusting sea winds really start coming into play. Right now, the drone's standing fairly still. I'm kind of just messing around with some stuff at this point. And then I keep mentioning the wind. There are issues where drones can drift due to like compass issues or GPS issues, but I loaded my whole flight info on a website called, I believe it's healthydrone.com, and there's like a premium version that will give you wind data. And it basically just calculates the drone's flight information and configures that in with some other stuff, and it gives you the wind data. So just like I was thinking, the time of the flight where I was having the most issues is when the wind was the heaviest. And when I look back to my flight at Grand Turk, the winds were very minor. They never really got above 15 miles an hour. And when I look back on flights that I had in Florida, again, never above 15 miles an hour. So I've had over 20 flights with my Mavic Pro, and I was getting cocky. Like, all I saw was this beautiful open ocean, all of these islands and mountains and clouds and just everything. You don't really think anything can go wrong. And I'm really thankful for this flight, even though it ended up so horribly, that I do know, certain things to look for. Like, before I take off with a drone, I'll now look at the clouds flying. I'll now look at the trees. I'll take my drone up, way into the sky and just look to see how it's responding. Is it moving even though I'm not touching the throttle? How long does it take for it to slow down? Stuff like that. It's also things you guys should keep in mind when flying at new locations. My biggest concern was the drone, just having GPS and floating off due to compass errors, due to software errors. Little did I know it was never the fault of DJI. It was never the fault of my direct control. It was just environmental issues. It was the wind that I've never really faced. I've never experienced wind like this where it could be 5 miles an hour where I'm at, but due to the way the islands are formed and the way the wind just funnels off of the mountains, it can gust up to 40 miles an hour. And basically, according to the Mavic or the app itself, if you have all the sensors and stuff on, so if you have forward obstacle sensing on, according to the app, the max flight speed is 10 meters a second. So that was my first issue. I had obstacle avoidance off, and I knew that obstacle avoidance slowed down the drone, but in the heat of the stress, in the heat of the situation, just flying outside with the sun glaring on my screen, it's harder to navigate the settings. A lot harder than you would think if you're just chilling right here, with your phone. So that was my first issue. When I was flying up, I should have turned that off. Just because I was going to be so high in the sky, why have that on? Especially if I could have gotten more speed out of it. The next issue is that I recently updated the drone to new firmware. So I think I reset a few of the settings. So there's a thing called multiple flight mode, which you want to turn on if you want to use sports mode. Sports mode is a little button on the side that you tap, and it allows you to fly. It says max speed reaches 18 meters a second, which is 65 kilometers per hour, which is about 40 miles per hour. So enabling sports mode would have allowed my drone to fly about twice as fast. So if I was able to get a clear head and figure out how to turn sports mode back on by going through the settings, I wouldn't have ran into this issue. Anyway, let's go back to the flight at hand. At this point, again, I didn't think I was having any issues. I was doing like a cool little look down shot. I didn't hold it for very long because look at how close we are getting to the mountain. So I was a little worried about that. Looking back, I'm nowhere near the mountain, but I'm just very paranoid. That's how I've always flown my drones. Right now, still have no idea. This is where it gets interesting. This is where I finally have that oh crap moment. Right about here. Yep. So right here is when I'm trying to basically push the throttle forward. At this point, I see, okay, I'm over 4,000 feet away. It's time to fly home. And you can just see at the picture that it's not a typical flight I would normally do. We're kind of going back and to the left. And if you just saw, like, I took the drone up even higher because we were drifting off, and I went up higher because I didn't want to drift into the mountain. Right here is probably the height of my stress. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, it's flying off. The only thing that made me feel good is that it's just a mountain, it's just a cliff, it's just the open sea. So when the drone crashes, I won't hurt anybody. That's all I care about at this point. And I'm still not getting anywhere, and the drone is drifting off about 10 miles an hour. Okay, you just saw the footage kind of reset. That's because the drone did a really weird thing where the video stopped recording, the gimbal freaked out, and everything was really weird. Like, I legit thought the drone hit a mountain and it was in the process of crashing. But everything came back to normal. It could have been like signal transmission issues with the mountain. At this point, you can see the drone is slowly moving back to where it should be. At this point, I hit return to home. I never like hitting return to home because that beeping noise is so annoying. I hate disturbing people on the beach where I'm at. I want to think about other people. You know, I know I'm flying a drone. I don't want the propellers to be annoying. I don't want my controller or my sounds to be annoying to them. I want to give drone flyers a good name. But I initiate return to home, and luckily it's starting to respond. At this point, though, it is going like 2 feet a second. And since we're 4,000 feet away, there's no way it's going to make it back. So at this point, the controller's beeping over and over and over. I feel like I had some people watching me, but at this point, I didn't care. I was just determined to get my drone back in time. And what I did slowly from this point forward, knowing that I was over that little part of that mountain, I wanted to lower the drone. My thinking was, once I got, back in this little cove and down a little bit, hopefully I got out of the really busy, strong wind. And also another important thing to note, on this flight, my drone was basically going with the wind the whole time. So the flight out was super easy, and the flight back is super hard. Looking back at my logs, I can tell that you can't really tell live wind speeds as you're flying your drone, but what you'd want to do if you're in my situation, fly the drone forward, let go of the throttle, and if it's still flying forward and you don't have it in sports mode, then the wind is probably pretty strong. The drone should be able to just stop from 20 miles per hour to 0 pretty quickly. Right now, the home point is that big mountain right in the middle. That's near where I'm at. So the drone's still kind of drifting off to the left a little bit. It's ultimately on its way home, but our biggest issue right now is the battery. So the speed it's moving right now, we don't have enough battery life. We're encroaching on this busy little area right here. I don't want to land my drone on someone's porch, in their pool, wherever. The thing to note, though, when your drone runs out of battery, it will immediately return home on a certain level. So my drone is set to return home at 30%. So at this point, the drone is nearing 30%. Return to home is automatically going to be initiated anyway, but we're already going home, so that doesn't matter. The next issue is when you get to 10%. When you get to 10%, that's when it starts to auto land, and we don't want it to auto land into the ocean. As it's landing, you have a little bit of control over it, but ultimately it just wants to come down because the software was designed that way. But as you can see right now, look at the picture. It's starting to speed up. It's because I've brought the drone lower. I've also kind of gotten it back into that protected pocket between these two mountains. As I'm watching this video, my heart is still racing. At this point, I have a little bit of hope back left. You see that little pier right there? Nope, that is not me. I'm still past this pier to this other pier over there. Heck, at this point, we've gotten so far that if need be, I could land the drone somewhere right here and then just run and get it. That wouldn't be a problem at all. But as I'm watching the video, stupid me, I'm flying it directly over the water. When you fly a drone, you need to think about worst case scenario. So I should have thought, what the hell would it... Can you shut up, Siri? I'm not talking to you. I lost my train of thought. So anyway, right now, as I'm flying over this cool little bounce house thing that I wish I got on, what would have happened if a gust of wind came again and just started taking my drone off? If the battery got so low and it started to auto land, I may be out of luck right here, because I'm starting to get kind of like out into the open water where it's harder to recover from any issues. But in my mind, I'm hoping, I'm praying that I can get back before the drone auto lands. The Mavic Pro has such good battery life, I've never gotten to the point where I've run the battery this low. I usually always do my flights out and back before it even hits 30% to come back. On top of this, I flew it out so far. Now the battery life is getting so low. The wind, even though it's not as strong, it's still not in my favor. The wind, we're flying against it. You can even see the clouds, the shadows of the clouds. They're flying the opposite way that we are right now. But you can start to see the dock. We're getting somewhere. We are getting somewhere. We're making some progress. At this point, I just want my drone back. I want it in my hands. And I vowed to never fly it again on this trip. Because even though these mountains and this water is so beautiful, anytime I see the wind gusting in a tree or blasting the clouds along, I know it's dangerous. Even though it's not windy right now, it could be windy up in those mountains. But here I am, right in that blue shirt. And the issue right here is I'm trying to land the drone, but we have this ship right here. And as I'm landing it, the wind is actually blowing it forward, and it's so close to hitting the ship. So what I do, I take it right back in the air. We're so close, and yet I was so far away. So I'm going to try to land it again right now. And it's going, it's going. The battery life at this point is at like 13%. Still not down yet. And there we go. Successfully landed on the ground. My drone is saved. So to answer the question of the title of this video, no, my Mavic Pro was not lost at sea, but it was so close. The battery life left on this drone was at like 13%. We were at like 30 seconds before it started to auto land. And the thing is, gosh, like I'm just so like wound up talking about this. But anyway, after I got the drone back, I put that thing in the bag. I was done. Even though I had 3 more batteries, I could have put a battery back in. I even was thinking, hey, if I go the other way, I'm good. You know, that way I can fly against the wind and it'll be easy way back. But my luck, the wind would shift, something would happen, I would lose GPS, I would lose signal and crash. And I felt like after I survived that super close call, it would just be pushing karma, be pushing luck to do it again. So St. Kitt, like I said, this wasn't my last stop. The next day, we went to St. Martin, however you want to say it, and it was even more beautiful there. More mountains, all these cool boats. But the problem was, I saw a helicopter flying in the distance, I saw a plane flying in the distance. Using my cues and clues, I noticed that right when I got off the cruise ship, it was super windy. The trees were blowing. I even looked at the clouds. I learned a new little trick. I looked at the clouds, and I decided I wouldn't fly it. So I told you guys I would get some amazing footage. I feel like I let you down a little bit just because I missed getting footage from Puerto Rico and also footage from St. Martin, but I did the best I could. None of the footage that you saw today is like cinematic or anything, simply because half of the flight I was trying not to have a heart attack. I managed to get some footage, but the whole time it was very stressful. I will definitely keep that in mind. You know, new places I fly, I'll look at the wind speed, I'll look at different environmental cues to see how the wind is in the distance up higher. I definitely learned from this experience, and I'm so glad that my Mavic is safe. I can prove it to you. Here it is. Not a scratch on it. And I have a hell of a story to tell everyone in the world. And every single mistake you make in life, you should learn from it. And luckily I did. I learned a few things. Check your settings before you fly. So I should have checked to make sure I could activate sports mode. I should have checked to make sure that the sensors were turned on or off depending on how I wanted to. And I should have checked something like the wind. Like I said, I'm from the Gulf Coast of Florida, so we're in this little sheltered area. It's like paradise there. It's not windy, the water is beautiful, but that's what led me to this problem. I wasn't experienced in strong winds. Even though I've seen countless videos on YouTube where people do long distance flights and they can't make it back because of the wind. I'm thankful though that this flight could have ended a lot worse. I had my drone, didn't hurt anybody, managed to get some amazing footage. That's all I gotta say about that, guys. If you watched this far, then kudos to you. Give yourself a thumbs up, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you want to. And also, I have a few things I need to do. I need to announce my LG V10 winner. That giveaway just ended, but I'll be announcing that I guess in another video I'll do. I just got back from vacation, so I want to get settled in before I do that. And then also, I want to announce something else, something more special. When I got back from my cruise, I noticed I had my first patron on Patreon. I silently set up a Patreon account. I put it in the links of my video descriptions, but I never really told anybody. And on my Patreon page, I said the first patron I get, regardless of the amount, I would give them a super big shout out in like a dedicated Patreon video. This isn't that video. I'll be making one of those in the future, announcing my official Patreon page. And luckily your name is super easy to pronounce. Her name is Lily Bloom. I saw the email that she donated to my Patreon page, and then I saw that she made a comment on my video. I immediately realized that her pictures matched, so I replied to her comment, and she replied, and she's one of the best subscribers I could ask for at this point. You know, she just seems to care about me and my videos I make, and she wants to watch my videos to get my real world experience. So that's what this video is. This is my real world experience on the Mavic Pro, what I didn't do. She also said she's writing a novel, so hopefully this gives her some inspiration. If she wants to write about this in her novel, go ahead. But I'm going to put links to her stuff in the description below, to her Patreon page, to her YouTube channel, to her Twitter, whatever I can find. I just want to celebrate my first official patron below. Also, I'll put links in the description to my Patreon page if you want to check it out. I'm not asking for money. I don't need the money, but I've had people in the past ask that I have one. So certainly a Patreon would help. It'll allow me to buy more tech, stuff like that. Like I said, I don't do YouTube full time, so I don't depend on it. But any extra money means extra gadgets and gizmos I can buy for the channel. And I think that's about it. From the cruise, I said I'd be doing a cruise vlog. I don't really know what I'm going to be doing at this point. I got tons of footage, like over 100 gigs of footage. So I'll be definitely doing some type of video. It may or may not be in vlog format. It may just be kind of like a, where I just talk about my experiences and throw in some video. I recorded video with my Canon 80D, a GoPro Hero 5 with the gimbal, stuff like that. I'm just kind of thinking, but I wanted to get this video out right now because this was the most stressful or dramatic video I could think of at the time to make from my cruise. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you watched the whole video before you commented below. I know some of you are going to be commenting that I crashed another drone, but that's what you get for not watching the whole video. So yeah, I'm back from vacation and my drone is alive. I got some good footage. Today is a good day. Have a great day, guys. See you later. Bye.